My path, I'll say from the time that I broke off from Christianity. I'll start right there. I spent probably about 15 years in Christianity.
Gotcha.
And I went fairly deep. But when I left Christianity, there was very much a crisis of faith, and I felt like I was heartbroken for maybe the 100th time, and I questioned my belief in God, and I questioned my purpose for existing, and I questioned like my identity. Didn't know who I was anymore, because that's where I found myself completely, my whole identity. And first I began to kind of search, what am I going to do with my life? And eventually I started to turn to some pretty dark things, because well, where's my power going to come from? Where's my internal strength going to come from? I turned to some pretty dark things, and I ended up joining a communal living group, which was very high control and was very damaging. I got a lot of damage from that. But then after that, I began to study some in the ancient of antiquity, the Greek gods, and the Greek who they would consider their sorcerers and their magicians and their lawgivers and their philosophers, and I was in that realm for a while, and I really didn't have anything grounded. I was just really searching, and what I came across was some Jewish people who were reaching out to other Jewish people who had converted to Christianity, and they were disassembling Christianity.
Interesting.
And I thought, because of my background is so deep in Christianity, that opened my eyes, and it cleared up a lot of confusion, a lot of fog, a lot of stuff I used to believe. I understand why it's wrong. Because Judaism had a system of logic inside of it too, and I began to really see the monotheism versus the duality of Christianity.
Excellent.
In the middle of being exposed to that, there was something that they called the Noahide laws.
Okay.
And so the Noahide laws were essentially like, you have the laws, the 613 laws that were given to the Jewish people.
All right.
And so some of them are for the priests, some are for the high priest.
Gotcha.
Some of them are for a time of war. Some of them are for women when they're going through that time of life. And then some of them were for just like the non-Jewish person who was living as a resident inside the land.
Gotcha.
And so for those people who are not Jewish, the laws were very few. And what they say is that this is traced back to Noah, to Adam, but then it was kind of reestablished with Noah. Okay. And in the fullness of learning about that, they say that essentially that Muslims are on par with that. Like they're like, they fit it perfectly. Like
with monotheism at least. Yeah. So you see how beautifully Allah took you out of all those darknesses into the light. Right? So now my question is, now with the Prophet Muhammad, we talked about the miracle of the Quran for him to recite something that he could not have written possibly, right? Miracle of the Quran, he couldn't have, exactly. So we are on par there. Splitting the moon, right? There are many more miracles. I mean, just for the sake of time, I'm just throwing you some big ones, right? In the Quran, it describes the development of the fetus in the womb. As you read it, you'll see it, right? It talks about how now at that time in the desert, there is no way he could have known that. They didn't have labs, they didn't have ultrasound. It's just impossible. It talks about the waves that the oceans have underneath the ocean, right? Now the Prophet ﷺ never went and dove into his ocean, right? Historically. So he could not have known that, right? Now it talks about the planets and their orbits, right? Now the Prophet ﷺ, an illiterate man, not a philosopher, didn't have binocular, wasn't Galileo, could not have known that. The Arabs didn't know that, right? So if you look at all of that, right? Then there is the journey of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. The Prophet ﷺ was taken from Mecca to Jerusalem and up past the 7 skies to have a meeting with Allah. Even though Allah was behind a veil, but he had a meeting. Now, again, anybody could claim that. But historically, when he was coming back, he saw the caravan of the people of Mecca. And he got to Mecca the same night he was back. And he described the caravan. And when the caravan of non-Muslims, when they came back, they confirmed that they heard his voice, that how in the formation that they were at, about a pot that they had. He was able to confirm all of that. Non-Muslims confirmed it.
That's in the Quran?
That's in the Hadith, right? The Quran also mentions it. There is a surah called Al-Isra. The Quran also mentions it, but the details are in the historic in reports that were given by Muslims and non-Muslims. Right? Now, when we talk about splitting of the moon, not only Muslims, but Hindu kings also saw it. Right? So now, when you look at all of these put together, right? Prophecies that came true, historic evidence, scientific evidence, the poetic nature of the Quran, that poets were like, how can a man who can't read or write, that never wrote a poem, come with something so beautiful, right? A law system, all of that by a man who couldn't read or write. A man who could not have known those. There's a scientist called Dr. Mufti Uthman, right? He has a book, you can look it up. It's called the Bible, the Quran, and Science. And he evaluates the Bible in accordance to modern science today, and he says it's inconsistent, it's been changed. And he evaluates the Quran, and it was so much in a harmony with modern scientific facts, not theories, but facts, that he ended up becoming a Muslim. Right? Dr. Mufti Uthman, the Bible, the Quran, and Science. You can get a PDF free online, right? So now when you look at all of that together, how can this man not have been a prophet? How would he have known all of this? How could he come up with so many scientific theories that the people at the time could not have known? They didn't have the technology, they didn't have the scientific know-how. Even if he was like in a place where there was like a center of knowledge, then maybe you could say, well, he learned it by the Rome. But he was in Arabian desert. The Arabs were not philosophers, they were not scientists. The only thing they had, they could memorize well. They had poetry, right? But he wasn't a poet. So even the poets couldn't say like, how did he come up with this, right? So when you put all of that together, I gave a lesson about the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I went over 3,000 miracles. Miracles in the sense that, you know, where it was documented that water came out of his hands, right? You know, were not by one person, but by multiple, like we talked about mutawatir, multiple people who told different people, some of them non-Muslims who were adversaries of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Right? Mm-hmm. So many other miracles, right? If you put all of that together, how can we deny him being a prophet? You feel me?
Yeah.
So you're at that 100, man. Let's do this, man. You're Muslim, bro. Come on, man.
I'm here.
What's holding you back?
How to say this right? I'm hearing you in the context of what you're saying, and that the only conclusion from there is
he's a prophet.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
So
I agree 100%.
You agree.
But
you said it.
But that's
no buts.
No, there is. There is a but. The reason why there's a but is because right now I'm constrained to the context.
Okay.
And I haven't taken steps that I would need to take.
Excellent.
To go that far.
So we have a YouTube channel. We have take the phone number of the brothers we have here, right?
I have,
excellent, excellent. So let's keep this conversation going, right? But just be careful, because Shaitan, the devil, Iblis, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, he's going to want to get you off track. He's going to want you to procrastinate, right? Because
Hey, well, I'll tell you right now, I spoke a little bit with Milan. Maybe I came about 5 weeks ago or something.
Excellent,
like that,
excellent.
When I met him originally.
Good.
And we talked a little bit about the Shaitan, and I think my position on Satan is more like the Jewish position.
Sure.
Where they say that he was an angel, or he is an angel, and angels don't have free will. I know he was telling me from the position of Islam, he does.
So if he was an angel, how would he be disobedient to God?
He is not.
Okay, so he's not an angel.
No, he's not. He's obedient.
Okay, so do you feel that what he does is to take people away from the right path?